Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this, our 10th of 10 master classes we've been running this week. So glad you all could be here. We are honored to be joined this afternoon as well by our Platinum Smile Conference sponsor, Skopenow. Michael Pekala and Jake Creps are both with Skopenow, and they are here to talk to us about, to introduce their platform, but more importantly, to look at automating your OSINT with the deep web and social media. So at this point, I'm just going to turn it right over to our speakers today.
Okay, there we go. My mute button seemed to escape me. Thanks for the introduction, Lori. My name is Jake Creps. I am the product manager at Skopenow. Today, we're going to be looking at a general overview of doing OSINT investigations for TikTok and Telegram, specifically on the desktop. So we're going to walk through both TikTok, the platform, and we're also going to be looking at different ways of looking at Telegram and things like that, more on the deep web side. So everybody should have gotten a handout from Skopenow. I think Lori must have disseminated this out, and it shows all of the things that I'm going to be covering today, and it's kind of like a cheat sheet that you can follow along with in the presentation, as well as refer back to, so you don't have to take such detailed notes. And it's going to cover everything that I'm doing on Telegram, as well as link to a blog post that we have on TikTok that's going to kind of step-by-step every single thing that I'm doing, so that any of the technical stuff that I go over can easily be referenced. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and start on TikTok.com. So the first note is TikTok.com actually just changed their site since the last time that Lori and Mike and I had spoken, and they completely changed their homepage. And this is a trend that happens pretty frequently with TikTok. And when they change their site, oftentimes the OSINT techniques that you need to use to get information off of the site also change. But that said, everything in this presentation is going to be up to date, and it's going to be something that you can use in your investigations today and moving forward. The first thing that I wanted to mention about TikTok is one of the fastest growing platforms that people are using for social media. The user engagement is extremely high. The amount of user generated content is extremely high, and tons of people in the demographics between 15 and 30 are appearing on this platform and publishing stuff every single day. Another thing too that is very important about this platform is because of their algorithms, they actually allow for very small accounts with very few amounts of followers to become very viral, because they will spotlight content from people that are not so famous and expose them to millions of people. So for that reason, it's attracting a lot of people to come on the platform to post user-generated content. Now, moving into the OSINT piece of this platform, the TikTok capabilities on desktop are actually extremely limited because it is primarily a desktop, or is primarily a mobile app first. So most of their users, if not all of their users, are viewing content on the mobile app. And because of this, TikTok has significantly degraded the capability to explore anything on TikTok.com. This is what the homepage looks like on TikTok, and as you can see, there are no search engines. Last week, I had a couple options here on the left that you could view, but now all they're really saying is log in and view this homepage with content, suggest accounts here, which are celebrities, and then discover section, which is going to talk about hashtags and popular content. Because of this reason, it's extremely difficult just to go on TikTok.com and search for something using OSINT techniques. And because of that, we're actually going to have to go to Google and use their search index of the platform to search for content that we're looking for. So tabs in advance to kind of go over every single thing that I'm going to discuss. So that way, everything is going to be presented without error. But this first command that I'm doing is, and let's see if I can zoom in here. Here we go. So the first thing that I enter is site:/tiktok.com. And what this does is, instead of searching on TikTok's website, we're actually just going to tell Google to explicitly only look at TikTok.com and only show us search results from that site. And then when we have that established, we can put in our query that we would normally put on a social media platform. We're going to put it in Google instead. So for this example, I'm going to use the celebrity Terry Crews. And the reason why I'm going to use him is because I know he publishes on TikTok. I know he regularly publishes content. And just for the sake of purposes of open source intelligence, many investigators and analysts in the space have been using him as an example, which I think is pretty funny and entertaining. But that said, I put in Terry Crews, which is his username on TikTok, and you can find this using other social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, things like that. But I also put the or operator here. And the or operator tells me that we either want the username or the first and last name. That way, if Google finds either or, we're going to be able to find that search result and get the stuff we're looking for. So as you can see here, the first result is Terry Crews's TikTok. But if you keep going down, there's tons of other results that we can reference as well. In fact, there's 13,000 results that match this query. So there's tons of stuff that we can do just within Google itself that we weren't able to do on the TikTok homepage. That's the first thing I wanted to cover, is using Google for discovery on TikTok.com instead of using the main platform. The next query I want to talk about is, let's say that this process fails, because obviously Terry Crews is a celebrity and it's very easy to find a celebrity account. If you're looking for an account that may not be so famous or prevalent on the internet, you can actually use this method, which, let me see if I can zoom in here. So I put the -site:/TikTok.com operator this time. And what that does is it tells Google to look at every other site except for TikTok.com. And we're going to look for all the same things that we looked for before, but we're also going to look for mentions of TikTok.com. So what this query does in a nutshell is it's going to search for essentially all links to Terry Crews's TikTok that aren't on TikTok.com. So this is going to be relevant if you have somebody that you know is prevalent on another platform, using another platform. They might be using different usernames. They might be using different display names. And as you can see here, we have an example where on Twitter, Terry Crews posted that he just posted his first TikTok video, watch and follow. You click on this, it's going to take you over to his TikTok. And so that's going to be useful if there's different display names or different usernames on two different platforms, and you can connect those two together. So just from this, these two searches, not only are you able to find the TikTok, but you're also starting to build out a general social media connection between Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, things like that. And here is another mention of Guide to OSINT Investigations using TikTok and Terry Crews from, I think that's Intelligence with Steve there. So, all right, so moving into TikTok.com. Here's what the platform looks like once you have the user that you're looking for. So we use Google to find it, but you could also just plug in this username here at the top, and keep in mind that @ symbol is required. So TikTok.com/@ and then the username. This will take you to this page. And there's a couple things that we can note from here. The first thing is that we have the username here. We have the display name. We have a list of followers, likes, and followings. And the first thing that I'll note is on the desktop version, you can't view their followers, their likes, and their followings. You can only do it on the mobile version. So if that's important to your investigation, you're going to have to either use an emulator or set up some type of device that you can use for TikTok to kind of grab that information. The reason why we're doing all of this on desktop and I'm mentioning the emulator or the mobile version at this point is we're specifically going to be talking about extracting content off of this profile, which is extremely difficult to do on an emulator or a mobile phone, to like copy and paste and grab specific content off of there without just taking a screenshot or something like that. So that's the reason why we're here. And now we're going to talk about the things that we can extract. So we have some, a short biography here. This may or may not contain information that's relevant. But as you can see here, there's an Instagram profile that's linked to the celebrity account. Now, if you look at the back of TikTok.com, if you're setting up an account, they allow you to link two different social media profiles to TikTok. You can either link your YouTube channel or your Instagram channel. So at any given point, a TikTok username or a profile can have either or of those links, which you can use to kind of verify your information as you go across different social media platforms, including find different usernames or different display names, emails, phone numbers, things like that. Moving down, we also have the videos, and depending on the user, they may post tons of them, and we're going to look at those specifically in a second. But we also have profile pictures as well. And this is something that I wanted to point out specifically is, unlike Facebook and platforms like that, TikTok doesn't allow you to kind of have an archive of every single profile picture a person's ever taken. So it's important to extract this information when you see it, because if that user changes their picture, the one that they had before is effectively lost. So that's why it's important to extract it. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So TikTok didn't used to always be this way. You used to have to go through like a technical route to get this picture in the full resolution instead of a thumbnail. But fortunately, now you can just right click, open the tab or open this picture in a new tab, and you'll get this full resolution picture that you can download. But if you wanted to get it in any other resolution other than 720, you could actually change the resolution up here at the top in the URL and get it into the size that you want it. So that's pretty simple. So now we have a profile picture and we've extracted username, display name, things like that. But that's really not why TikTok is useful. TikTok's mainly useful, as you can guess, for the video content. And so let's take a look at video content and what this looks like on TikTok. So there's two ways you can open up a video. You can click on it and get this pop-up like you see here, or you can right click and open in a new tab. And this is going to take you to a whole new page that isolates that video individually. Now there's two different reasons why you could do it, and there's value to both different ways. But for the sake of this video, I'll show you just what it looks like from the pop-up and how to get this video to be downloaded on your computer. Because if you right click on it, you can see that there isn't an option just to download. If you hit save as, it's going to save the whole web page. It's not going to save the video itself. So this is the first part of the tutorial that's going to have a little bit of a technical piece, and it's going to be involved looking at the source code of the website to pull the link of this video directly off so that you can download it. And it's not so difficult. All you have to do is right click, hit the inspect button, and it's going to pull up this long list of information, but you can ignore 99% of it. The only thing we want to look for here is it says video and it has sequence after it, which is really not relevant. And then if you look here, there is a link. If you right click on this link and open that in a new tab, it'll take you to this video completely in isolation. And then from there, you can right click and you can save this video as. So you can go to any single TikTok profile that you want, and you can go through each individual video and download all the videos off of the platform one by one. Now that said, I mentioned before that TikTok is making some changes to their platform. And because of that, some videos may not be ready for download immediately. It's difficult to capture them. We've been able to do that through some network trafficking and grabbing information directly from the page in Skopenow. But if you're doing this manually, it's really difficult to grab, because if you right click and hit inspect on this page, it's going to take you to this link, the same like we had before. We're going to open it up in a new tab, and this one will show, but sometimes you'll have a video where it won't show. Like I tested this earlier, and I believe that this video here had a broken link at the end of it, like this one here. So I think what happens on TikTok's side is that at a certain point when it's published, it's available to be downloaded, and other times it's not. It's unclear exactly why that happens, but it's just something to be aware of when you're downloading videos. And the same thing happens if you right click, go to the new tab, and try to do it this way as well. The same exact method. You hit inspect, you go to this video, you go to this link here, you open it up in a new tab, and you get the same broken link. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're extracting video content off TikTok, is that it's not really stable, and sometimes it gives you what you want and sometimes it doesn't. Now that said, let's talk about the video and the information that you can get from the video itself. So as you can see right here, there's a date that is right after the username of the profile. So 10/2, October 2nd, right? Makes sense. TikTok used to have it so that you were able to see the exact date timestamp of this post by just looking in the source code here. They changed that. And as you can see, all you can see now is 10/2. So that's something that you'll find in the blog post of Skopenow that you were once able to capture, but you're no longer able to capture. So this kind of, I guess, makes the value of it from a date timestamp perspective a little bit less, because you don't know exactly when it was posted time-wise. So it's a little bit more difficult to build a timeline as to when this was posted, when it was filmed, and something like that. So that's just something to keep in mind that has changed over time. Now that said, we do have a couple other things that are useful on this page. And this is something that's extremely unique to TikTok and something that kind of has worked to build the virality and the popularity of the platform. And that's your ability to create a video, and then someone else could take the audio of your video and create their own user-generated content using your audio alone. And then that kind of helps spread the original sound, as they call it here, from one user to the next, and kind of makes the video go viral on its own. So we'll take a look at what that looks like right now. If you right click and open that in a new tab, you'll see that the original is here, but that somebody else actually made a video using the same audio as you found on the first video. Now, the reason why that's important is for somebody like Terry Crews, if you go to one of his older videos, and we'll just pull this up for example here. If you go to one of his older videos with an original sound, you'll see that sometimes you'll have like 270 videos and people, linking all over the place. But obviously this is normal because Terry Crews is a celebrity account. If you're looking at somebody who's just a normal account who's posting on TikTok, anybody who might be using that original sound is likely to know the person, be somehow affiliated with the person, or it's in an odd chance, it's a video at the beginning stages of going viral in some sense. It's something you have to take into consideration though, because if you find another username of somebody who might be connected to that person, you can then check that username across Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, things like that to see if they're actually connected in a verifiable way on other platforms like a friends list or a followers list or something like that on a different platform. And that's why it's really useful. And that's why TikTok should be something you definitely consider in your investigative process. Another thing that I wanted to cover is I wanted to find a video that had a hashtag, because this is another thing that, here we go. Here's the hashtag, America's Got Talent, AGT. So here's another thing on TikTok that you can use to search for content. And it's a little bit kind of a backdoor way of finding content on here because once again, there's no search engine on the platform. So here is the AGT, which is America's Got Talent hashtag. If you were to come up here to the URL bar, which it says, let's see if I can zoom in here, tiktok.com/tag/AGT, which is the hashtag. You can just change that to gun, let's say, or guns. And this will take you to any references that might hashtag that word guns. Like here is a video that's using a firearm here, or this one looks like there's a cannon of some variety or an artillery piece. Another thing that you can do, which is actually pretty useful, is you can actually put in a location. So if you wanted to put in San Francisco, right? Let me see if I can spell this right. If you want to put in San Francisco, you can actually start seeing posts that are specifically tagged with the location San Francisco. So you can kind of start doing a geolocation-based search this way as well, and maybe find users that would be in the San Francisco area. Like this one right here is them taking a picture, Golden Gate Bridge, San Francisco. If there's an event that's unfolding, like a big riot or like an active shooter situation or anything like that, you could probably go on TikTok, type in the hashtag of the location where that's happening, and you can look to see if there's any user-generated content for that area that may relate to the stuff that you're looking for. So it's another powerful thing that you can do, and all the same things apply. You can extract this video. If it's an original sound, you can see if it's being spread, and you can see if it's being spread, who are the people spreading it, and start to build out kind of a map of the people that might be in that area or might be doing that thing. All right, so let's backtrack real quick, go back to the Terry Crews profile and just do a kind of a quick overview of everything that we covered, because like I said, TikTok on desktop is extremely limiting. The main thing that you want to do on here is you want to be able to extract videos, photos, any social media profiles, biographical information, and kind of start building a social network out of those different things across different platforms. But you're not going to be able to do much else. So everything that we've covered so far, the profile picture, the videos, and looking at how this is tagged across platforms or looking at hashtags is about all you're going to be able to get. But that doesn't mean that it's not valuable. And we can kind of talk about what you can do information once you have it. So the first thing I want to talk about is I mentioned earlier that you can link Instagram and YouTube specifically to TikTok. If you go back to Google and use it as a search engine for different platforms, you can actually search for mentions of TikTok, Terry Crews, the username Terry Crews, specifically on those sites, YouTube and Instagram, to see if you can find information kind of through the back way or finding TikTok information through the search engine of Google without having to go directly on those platforms. So let's see if we can get a, okay, I'll just kind of go through it here. So we have, sorry, usually this zooms in. Okay, so we have site:/youtube.com. We've specified that site. We've used the OR operator to also look at Instagram. So the only thing that Google's showing us is YouTube and Instagram. We have that Terry Crews username, or we have the Terry Crews first and last name. And we've looked here at TikTok as a word, TikTok as two separate words, just because most people use it that way, or some people do. But we're also looking at tiktok.com/@Terry Crews, which is the link to that page. And so I've included this in text operator because if you specify in text, it's not going to look at the title. It's not going to look at the URL. It's only going to look at the text of the page. So this lets you know that somebody might be listing that link within the text of the page you're looking at. And it's not going to be something that's included in the title, which may take you back to the page that you already started at. So here are all the different references of YouTube videos that are referencing TikTok on those pages. So you can possibly find a few things here. You can find videos that have been deleted that used to be on TikTok. You could find old usernames that used to exist on TikTok that somebody might have changed their username that you can use to find other social media profiles. And you can also find additional like comments or any other connections that way as well. So here is one that I believe, let's see. Oh, I think it's switched over to the next video. That's what's happening here. Okay, so here is a TikTok video that shows, actually this is the Terry Crews one. I think we might have this one here we want to look at. So this one shows right here, the first thing you want to notice is that his username used to be real Terry Crews and he changed it to Terry Crews. So in a case like this, there might be a situation where you have a person that changed their username and you can find it here on YouTube and then reverse search that on a different platform to maybe find their username elsewhere. So this is a really valuable way that you can kind of expand your investigation beyond TikTok into other platforms. So that's one thing I wanted to cover, and that's TikTok in a nutshell and what you can do with it and how you can kind of expand your research beyond the platform itself and what kind of content you can get off of it. Now I want to move on to Telegram. So TikTok is kind of that social media piece, the trending new platform that's out there. Telegram is something you don't really hear that much in the news, but it's being used more and more frequently as fringe accounts, terrorism-related accounts, any type of account that's getting deleted or removed off of mainstream platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatnot. They're moving into private channels like Telegram, WhatsApp, things like that, to kind of spread their message, post the same kind of content, and have communication between groups and individuals. So here's the Telegram homepage. Here's kind of why people use it. But I just wanted to show you, like, this is what the homepage looks like, and this is going to be important later because it's going to be a little bit different when we actually search for content on Telegram, because it's going to use a little bit of a different URL. So let me see if I can move this. Okay. Here's what I meant. So the same operator that we used before is site:/t.me. That's what Telegram uses for their actual channels and their groups and things like that. They don't use telegram.org. They use t.me. I've entered the query Feuer Krieg Division because it's a known neo-Nazi group that was operating on Telegram that I think they got shut down in early or late last year, maybe early this year, but it was one of the more prevalent channels and they had, over 1,000 followers and were publishing content every single day. If you put in site:/t.me, Feuer Krieg Division, you're going to see all channels that are mentioned that are using that name. So this is what a channel looks like. And you can find all kinds of content. It's going to be a neo-Nazi content. You're going to find audio. You're going to find documents. You're going to find links to other social media profiles, email addresses, and things like that. There's tons of content that's published on here. As you can see, almost 1,000 photos, 64 videos, 1,300 members or so. If you go to the very top here at this URL and change it just to Feuer Krieg Division or whatever they call it, FK Division Official, and just put /1, that's going to take you to the very top of the page. And this is where we're going to find all the content that we need to get started in extracting that content and doing some more analysis and frequency analysis, looking at specific email addresses and users and things like that. But before we get started on scraping, there's a free tool that you need to download that's going to automate this process for you, and it's going to require virtually no setup. And that's called Instant Data Scraper. It's a free Chrome extension. I link to it here in the cheat sheet. Let me see if I have it here. I link to it here in the cheat sheet so you can download it. It goes into your browser. I have it here as my second option. I use it pretty frequently. And what that's going to do is, instead of having to go through and like right click and save everything and everything like that, PDFs and whatnot, you can just click on this. It's going to open up a new tab or like a new window, and it's going to highlight the area automatically that you want to pull off of the platform. And we're going to enable infinite scroll, which is going to scroll the entire page. It's going to pull everything off the platform, including links, everything that I mentioned before. And once it's done, which is going to take a significant amount of time if it's a big channel, we can then pull that up in an Excel file, look at all that information in one place, do a couple techniques in Excel to isolate that information out, to look at it, more granularly, and be able to get huge amounts of insight of what's going on in these channels without having to manually scroll through the whole thing. So I'll go ahead and show you what I mean here. So if I just put in a delay of 5 seconds, The reason why I'm doing that is once it scrolls, you see a web page will load for a second or two, and then the content will populate afterwards. That's what we're factoring in by giving it a 5-second delay. So as you can see, the scroll starts, it loads. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's more slow. As you get down on the page, it takes a little bit longer. It's going to go ahead and pull all of this content automatically. And you can just have this run in the background while you're doing something else. And you can have this run on multiple channels simultaneously as well. And just a quick preview of everything that's being captured. It's kind of raw data. And it's when you first look at it, which we'll look at it in a second, it's really hard to make sense of what's going on. But when you start pulling information off of it, separating it into a different Excel sheet, there's tons of valuable stuff there. And we'll cover what that looks like here in a second. Now, I wanted to talk about a couple different things. So we have a neo-Nazi group that's shown here. And, this is one use case that you'll see. You can look at things like fraud. You can look at stealing operations, organized retail crime, things like that. There's all kinds of stuff being posted on Telegram. But once you find something good, you want to see if there's something similar, right? So we put in the word division because that seems to be unique across all these neo-Nazi groups. And we just subtracted that word Feuerkrieg. So just zooming in here, we put a minus operator before that word so that it shows everything except that word. And as you can see here, we have another kind of similar Telegram channel. It's called the Blutkrieg division. And if you look here, the content's very similar. They don't have nearly as many followers or members. They don't have nearly as much content, but it's very similar in style. So just by doing that one technique, you can find multiple channels. And we'll look at it in a second. Once you scrape all that information, you'll be able to find channels within channels and be able to find tons of content just by extrapolating that research as you go. The last thing I wanted to cover is one big thing that's happening in the media lately is this Boogaloo movement. It's kind of this conspiracy theory about an upcoming civil war, but it's linked to a lot of crime. It's linked to a lot of theft. It's linked to a lot of other things that you've seen across different social media platforms because of the prevalency of the conspiracy theory, weaponry and like prepper stuff and things like that. So here's another example of the type of stuff that you can find on Telegram. And using the same technique before, we can just go all the way to the top. We can figure out when it was created. And it looks like we can, if you keep going down here, you can find maybe who created it, who's the admin, different types of content that they're posting. But I just wanted to make the point clear that it doesn't have to be fringe organizations or terrorist organizations or anything like that. It can be pretty much any use case that you want because there's usually a Telegram channel or group for it. I already had this one pulled up. Now, here is the main value of this whole process we went through. So we went to Google, we found the channel we were looking for. We went all the way to the top. We did a little bit of analysis just to verify that's what we want. We scraped the whole channel. We exported it as a CSV. And then I just uploaded it here. And on this cheat sheet, you can reference this. I have it linked here as well. So you can just kind of look at the handout and look at what I've already done with it. Here is the list of everything we pulled. And like I said, it's pretty raw data and it's kind of hard to see what's going on here. But as you look a little bit closer, you'll see that there are different links here. And there are links to different channels that aren't the ones that we saw before. So if we just look here, close out this pop-up here. This guy kind of changed his channel. I think he shut everything down. But here's another channel that we found through this research. Here's another one here. And what's happening here is the channel that we found, which is the, it's not even letting me open this one anymore. Okay. The channel that we found, which was the Feuerkrieg division, what they can do within Telegram is they can actually forward content from one channel to another. So what that means is whoever the admin of this channel is, they can be looking at multiple different channels across Telegram. They can find content that they like and they can forward it on to their channel. And that means that you can kind of say to a certain extent that the narrative and the content that's on this channel is related to that channel in some shape or form because the admin is consuming all of that content. So this whole list here shows all the different channels that were forwarded from one channel to the next. And we just were able to do this by scraping it with that free Chrome extension. Another thing that we'll find is if just by hitting the @ symbol, you'll be able to find, look, here's an email address that's listed within this channel, which you can use for a reverse image or a reverse search on the email. If we keep going down, I believe that there are, yep, here's another email address that appears. And And somewhere through here's a few more email addresses. They also have lists of usernames as well that'll come up throughout this search. So, and as you can see here, like they had a Proton Mail before, and now they also have a Tutanota email account, which is pretty similar to Proton Mail. But it's going through, here's a username that we can use on Telegram as well to do kind of a reverse search. Here's a huge list. And now if you separate that out, you'll see that some things are mentioned more than one time. They're being used over and over and over, or they're being forwarded over and over and over. And you can start to build a frequency analysis to see which channels are most prevalent or most important to the channel you're looking at. And just to give you an idea of how many different usernames or different channels you could find within this, just going down here to the bottom, looks like a total of 191 channels if you factor out the title. Actually, no, it's 192 channels in this section that we were able to pull off of Telegram. Now, there's one thing that I wanted to mention, and this is kind of going back to the technical side of the OSINT conversation. Here in the handout, I mentioned that if you add S in between the Telegram channel and the username, or I guess t.me and the username, if it lets you go into that channel, it means that it's public. You can view all the content within it. However, if it redirects you back to like t.me username without the S, that means it's likely private. And I'll show you what that looks like in practice. So I've separated these just by checking these between private usernames and public usernames. And what happens here is that this is a private username. I think this one went public recently. We'll use this one here. Like I mentioned before, it wasn't actually letting me preview the channel. I was having to do it within the Telegram app itself. Now, if I go up here, I should be able to add S, but as you can see, it redirects me again, which means that I have to be able to go through Telegram to be able to see this. Alternatively, if you go to a public username here, here's an example. If I add S here, it should take me there. However, this one's changed. It's recently become private. Let's look at one here that might give us some access. So as you can see here, we put in the S and it shows us the entire thing. We put that /1, it takes us to the top of that channel. We know when it was created, and as you can see, it matches the channels that we were looking at before with some of that neo-Nazi content. Now you have this full list, you verify which ones are public, which ones are private, which you can do with a couple free tools online. Now let's look at the frequency analysis, which is kind of like the main value add here. So we want to see which ones are being mentioned the most and which ones are being, I guess, mentioned the least, so we know which ones not to look at. And just by doing a quick graph here of the frequency that I pulled from the duplicates list, we can see that the TINPS channel is being mentioned the most. We also have, everything pretty much that's more than, 4 or 5 is probably relevant. And we can go to each individual channel. And these are all private ones. So we can just reverse search these names through something like Skopenow or Google and get other profiles on Twitter and Telegram, Gab, and things like that. But if we have open usernames, which as you can see are not forwarded as often, if we put in this one here, we put in S, canceled futures, we'll see this entire channel. So it kind of lets us know which ones we have to do a little bit more work on and which ones we can access right away and do the same process and repeat it. But what's interesting about the closed channels or things like that is it tells you that the person has to be in that channel or joining that channel in some variety to be able to forward that content onto their channel. So it kind of shows you that there is a connection there. And just by going through each one of these, or honestly just looking at the usernames, you can see that a lot of them are relevant to the neo-Nazi movement that's happening on Telegram. But that's pretty much the gist of what you can do with Telegram channels using your desktop, which most people didn't know was possible just to do it all through Google. If you wanted to find something like individual users, it's much more difficult because that's very private on Telegram. You are able to get things like groups, but it requires you setting up a very specific workspace on your desktop to be able to get that. It requires running a lot of different code in JavaScript, using a lot of different tools, but it is possible to extract those lists. And that's something that not only are we working at and doing at Skopenow, but it's something that's becoming more widely accessible to the open source intelligence community. that being said, that's the summary of my presentation. We have questions and answers open. So if anybody has any questions that you either want me to answer now or at the end of the presentation, feel free to send those out. Without further ado, I'm going to pass this over to Mike, who's going to go over to Skopenow, and he's going to kind of go how this entire manual process that I just showed you guys over the last 35 minutes or so. He's going to show you how we can automate that for you guys using Skopenow and do it in just a few minutes. Thank you guys for sitting through the presentation, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.